Get off my lawn! Oh, what's up, Twitch? Welcome to the OCM Team Trios today, featuring modern head judge Josh Schroeder out there just making the tournament announcements.
Oh, yeah.
These players are going to get started in just a moment. Of course, we are here at Game Castle in Ankeny. This is the last one.
This is the last chance qualifier.
This is the
Oh,
last...
I'm Stefan. This is Blake.
Hello. This is the last chance for these players to qualify for the $3,000 championship coming the first weekend in December.
You're sort of burying the lead there. It is $3,000. Also, if they win,
they get the belt.
The belt.
The OCM championship
we haven't touted
belt.
this in a while.
The OCM championship belt. On screen for round one, we have returning player Chris Dieter at the bottom of your screen playing Jace's Can of Beans. I have no idea what this deck is.
I imagine it features some amount of beans.
I have no idea what this deck is. Maybe he plays... What is there a Jace? Yeah, there's a Jace that triggers beans, right?
There's also a Jace that wins if you have no cards in your library.
Oh, interesting.
I would love to see a lab man.
The Wielder
Jace.
of Mysteries.
That's the one.
Jace, the Wielder of Mysteries from War of the Spark.
Yep.
Colorless and 3 blue.
3 blue, trips blue, yeah.
Planeswalker with a static ability that's basically Laboratory Maniac. If you draw a card while you have no cards in your library, you win the game instead.
Yes.
And then on a plus, I believe it's target player mills 2, and you draw a card. And then a -7 of, I think it's Time Twister.
Honestly, he is, without that static ability, he is actually just a serviceable planeswalker with 2 activated abilities. So yeah, he's, let's see here. He is 4 loyalty, +1.
Yep. Target player mills 2 cards, and then you draw a card, and then -8. Sorry, it's -8, not -7. Draw 7 cards. Then if your library has no cards in it, you win the game. So he has 2 opportunities to win the game.
I don't know if this is in his deck. I don't know if this is it. Chris would not divulge any information about the contents of the deck.
Yes,
just the name.
We are going in blind.
I will say that a lot of these control decks that utilize up the beanstalk as card draw engines really need a win condition. In the last tournament,
they struggle to win a game because they're drawing so many cards, they play so many spells, they end up with, their opponent doesn't have anything, but they don't have a way to close the game out quickly.
Yeah.
So we saw in the last Modern tournament that Chris Rogers was actually using Approach of the Second Sun
so good
to win the game.
Which he ended up drawing with a 1 ring in the same turn,
but Chris's deck wasn't actually playing up the beanstalk. It was just the 4-color Omnath deck. It had Wrenn and 6. It had Teferi Time Raveler. Things like that. It was the 4-color control deck. And then at the top of your screen, a newcomer to a feature match here. This is A. Adams playing a deck that we have not seen on camera yet at all this entire year. It's Hardened Scales.
This is an exceptional deck.
This deck has gotten some really, really sick pieces in the last couple of months. Most recently, Agatha's Soul Cauldron.
Oh. Not only does it put counters on creatures, which is like the name of the game with Scales, right? Hardened Scales. It strips activated abilities out of your graveyard.
Yep. So any creature that has a +1/+1 counter can be a walking ballista.
That's the big one.
It can be a Zabaz.
Yep. The Glimmer Wasps.
Yeah. Also in this deck, of course, Patchwork Automaton, Arcbound Ravager.
All the greatest hits of creatures that get
greatest hits. It has, Ancient Stirrings.
Yep. Because it is
Hangerback Walker, Walking Ballista, like I said.
Hardened Scales, obviously.
Hardened Scales, of course. Patchwork Automaton, my favorite card from that limited set.
Oh, my God.
The Ward 2 on that card, it just felt always so unbeatable.
Game 1, round 1 of the Canadian Highlander tournament last weekend, I died to that card very quickly.
Oh, out of Mitch's deck?
No, Alex's.
Oh, out of the Boros equipment deck?
Equipment deck. Yeah, so it's a powerhouse.
Yeah, Patchwork Automaton. It's a 2/2, a 1/1 for 2.
Yep.
With Ward 2, and
That's
then whenever you cast an artifact spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So it has great synergy with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, and I'm really excited to see the Scales deck on camera.
It's it takes a decent amount to get good at this deck to be serviceable at it.
Yeah, it's definitely a math deck, right?
Oh yeah. And if you're bringing it to a tournament of this size, I'm going to make the pretty lateral assumption that you know what you're doing.
Why would you ever assume that I know what I'm doing?
Well, not you personally. A probably knows what he's doing here. I will also point out that both of our round 1 teams here on matching jerseys.
That's beautiful. I didn't even notice that when we were setting them up. They are wearing jerseys.
I really like to see that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Blake and I also wearing our matching OCM jerseys.
We are wearing OCM jerseys. Team Taco for the win. These players are going to get started here. I believe A. Adams on a Mulligan 6. Of course, Hardened Scale is a deck that mulligans pretty aggressively. You want that turn 1 Scales.
Agreed.
We're going to get started here. Chris is going to play a Flooded Strand and pass things over to A. Adams.
He just wants a good opener, right?
Tap Stomping Ground from
okay.
A. Chris is going to crack this Flooded Strand.
What if that... we're blind, right? Like, there's no information here being traded by either player going into this round.
No. Chris has no idea what A is on yet.
I mean, it could be anything with this. I mean, we've seen some Gruul Storm decks recently creeping up.
Oh, with the Anarchomancer.
Yep. Yeah. And that new Druid...
Questing Druid.
Mm-hmm. That deck's been pretty popular. There's always food decks that run a lot of red-green. So, like, I think A knows sort of what Chris is on, seeing Triomes coming into play.
Sure, this is some Omnath leyline binding nonsense.
We have an idea, whereas Chris is still
has no idea.
No.
Yeah. So, Chris is going to crack Flooded Strand, find a Triome, and then play a Windswept Heath. And that looks to find a Plains.
A Spacek Plains.
A Spacek Plains.
A lot of players on these.
Chris has an Up the Beans.
There's the beans.
There's the beans. So, Chris is going to draw a card, and we will head back over to A.
I'm excited to see if he has that Jace in his deck. Genuinely.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense as a win condition. These decks, they were like recycling endurances.
Oh my god.
Like you have a Fairy Time Raveler to bounce your endurance, so you can just keep casting it over and over again. That way you don't deck yourself. But just killing your opponent with a Jace Wielder of Mystery sounds great too. Here's an Inkmoth Nexus and an Agatha Soul Cauldron.
Oh, here we go. So now this gives us a little bit of a clue of what's happening, but still not a lot.
And you see Chris bow his head a little bit there as the Agatha Soul Cauldron comes into play. The jig is up.
Yeah.
He knows what deck this is now.
Kind of, yeah. Well, we know what the game plan is. Walking Ballista is generally the payload for these decks.
Steam Vent's going to get shocked in here. Chris will go down to 17.
It also...
16 after that second phase.
A can also... doesn't have to exile a creature. He can exile anything with the Soul Cauldron.
Right, you just get the +1/+1 counter if it's a creature.
Yeah, and he can just start stripping out some stuff from Chris's graveyard. Here we go. So we're gonna get a beans here.
Yeah. This is a Cascade deck then.
Yeah.
Okay. So the
Jace.
The Jace makes even more sense now.
Because you're not cascading into that.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. So another bean's gonna come into play here. That'll randomize the bottom, and Chris is gonna get a draw card.
And we're just good to go.
Pass back over to A.
Chris has the engine assembled now. He's going to draw 2 cards for every card he plays.
Here's another Inkmoth Nexus.
The Inkmoth Nexuses represent that level of inevitability.
And here is a Walking Ballista for 1.
X1. So now it's sort of, even if Chris deals with this Ballista, he needs to exile it. But even if he tries to, A can sack the counter.
Right. Yeah. So if you were to play a Leyline Binding or something targeting it, A could, fling the counter at Chris's face.
Yep.
And then activate the Inkmoth Nexus.
Yep.
And then activate the Soul Cauldron to put a counter on the Inkmoth Nexus.
Beautiful. And then Inkmoth represents a 10-turn clock. Or no,
it would be a 5-turn clock.
Yeah, that has Infect.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sort of love that. And he has redundancy for that effect too. And Chris is also now he's in a tough spot because he can't evoke any of the elementals. Evoking any of them is going to, while it will draw him a card, it's going to put him in his graveyard. And then and then A's just going to be able to eat them.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a little bit of a liability. I think the best answer here is probably... Well, I mean, we're still really early in this game.
Oh, yeah. We're setting
A didn't have a particularly explosive draw. So I think if Chris is able to just... I was going to say, I think Teferi might be the best thing for him right here. So I think that, Chris is in a position where he can just kind of grind this game out.
Yeah.
Be able to capitalize on A not having an explosive draw, maybe mulliganing a little bit. So Teferi the Time Raveler going to come down, and that's immediately going to get -3'd. To bounce the Egg of the Soul Cauldron.
Is he sort of daring A to kill it with the Ballista?
I mean, that would be nonsense, I think. It's best to just put your Cold Soul Cauldron back in your hand, I think.
I just don't know if Chris is sort of letting his opponent misplay, if he wants to.
Sure.
Like daring him to do it.
I mean, bouncing the Soul Cauldron with the Teferi was the obvious play, I think.
Absolutely.
Here is another land from... Is that a pathway?
That's a pathway.
Pathway.
That's Timber Crown.
That's interesting.
That's actually the backside. Crag Crown's the front side.
It's. I mean, this deck doesn't care about its pips a lot. The red is only in there for Zabaz.
Correct.
And the green is only in there for Hardened Scales. And
there's your card.
There's my boy Patchwork Automaton.
And what are we doing with the mana there? So he.
He cast.
Replaying Cauldron.
Yeah, he cast the Cauldron.
And he sequenced that correctly too. Okay.
As one does.
Remember what I said? I'm going to suppose that these players know what they're doing, and is he just discarding a Ballista?
He cast it for 0 to trigger the Automaton again.
Oh my god! So now he can exile it with the Soul Cauldron.
Yep.
Put the counter on that.
That is nuts.
Okay. It's giving expert. Okay, so we've got the Omnath coming down.
Omnath gonna draw a card.
The boss monster of Chris's decks. It's gonna draw 3 cards. Because it draws on ETB and it draws off Beanstalk. No, it's only 4 mana. Okay.
Yeah, it does not trigger up the Beanstalk.
Man, could you imagine how good it would be? That could be a good card.
The Phyrexian Omnath triggers up the Beanstalk.
I don't think that one's as good, though.
The Phyrexian Omnath?
It's not as good, is it?
Oh, some of these decks are playing it now.
Are they really?
Yeah, because you can play it for 4. Because it's the Phyrexian mana.
Right, it's Phyrexian black.
So you can play it for 4, draw cards, and then also you float mana. It just stays in your pool.
Here we go.
So Soul Cauldron has now exiled Walking Ballista. That's going to put another counter on the Walking Ballista that's in play.
Do we like that over? I suppose it doesn't matter, right? So we're just going to kill...
Yeah, it looks like, well, with the trigger on the stack, A. Adams has killed the Omnath.
That's wild.
And now, in response, Chris is cracking the fetch land, so he will get that second trigger.
Okay, well, that's... Okay.
So Omnath is in play. We play a fetch land. That triggers Omnath. Okay, in response to the Omnath trigger, I'm going to kill your Omnath.
Because you can't respond to the play.
In response to you taking that last counter off your Walking Ballista or Patchwork or whatever it is, I'm going to crack this fetch land. He will get the second trigger. He'll make 4 mana.
I wonder if he should have waited.
He's getting his value.
No, I wonder if A should have waited.
I don't know if there was a better time to do it.
Is there?
With the fetch land... You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it no matter what.
You're only gonna get the first because if you kill it in response to the fetch.
Well, Chris didn't let it die though. He let him take that last counter off, and then he cracked the fetch land.
Okay.
Priority.
It is what it is, man. I love this kind of magic because it's like it's.
Yes, it is. It is very expert play.
You can see teammates just looking over and like giving some advice.
So I believe Chris has 4 mana in the pool right now.
Yes, he does.
And he'll have a 5th one available with the Sacred Foundry. So he could potentially do some evoking to kill this Patchwork Automaton.
He'd have to pay 2 mana to do it.
He would, but he has mana in his mana pool.
Oh, that's
true.
So
he's evoking a Fury. He's got 4 mana in the pool, so he can use 2 of that. Have 2 left in the pool. Fury's going to now Flame Slash the Patchwork Automaton.
Okay.
A. Adams says trigger. I'm sure Chris just pays the 2. So once the dust settles here, Chris will still have 2 mana in his pool and this untapped Sacred Foundry he can do something with.
And he still hasn't gone to combat yet.
Or drawn 2 cards from his Up the Beanstalks.
Right. He already drew, didn't he? I thought he did.
I do. Okay, maybe he did.
He did.
Maybe I missed that.
Look at the grip in that man's hand.
Patchwork Automaton's going to go away. Now, does Chris have a follow-up play? He's still got 3 mana floating. It is going to be a Teferi the Time Rattler, and that's going to bounce the Soul Cauldron. Yeah, so that cleaned up really nicely.
Yeah.
The Omnath just did a ton of work there.
Chris still sitting at 17 life right now. This is not where the Scales deck wants to be. They want to be a little bit more explosive, right? Like,
well, I mean, Up the Beanstalk has so far drawn, 4 cards?
Yes,
and that's exactly what a control
and Omnath drew a card,
between the two Teferis, we've drawn 2 more cards. So total cards drawn 12.
This is a deck that doesn't care about trading 1 for 1.
It does not. No, and it will 2 for 1 itself constantly with the elementals.
Yeah, like he evoked that elemental, and it cost him literally no cards in hand, no mana.
A is going to deploy the Soul Cauldron, and it looks like animate an Inkmoth Nexus.
Kind of like that, because now he can. He's killing Teferi. Okay.
Yep. No concern there for Solitude.
Yeah.
Looks like post-combat Soul Cauldron is going to get activated, targeting the Walking Ballista.
Yeah. Just to put the counter on there. He didn't have to do that before damage. It was just going to die anyway.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, baiting out the Solitude there, I think, probably.
Probably, yeah.
And we'll head back over to Chris's turn. Chris is going to untap and take a draw step.
It's so funny that, like, we saw all that action, and A still has these lands that don't care how much life Chris gains or how many cards he draws.
Right, yeah. And Infect a real threat here. Omnath from Chris.
I love that B game plan.
Here is having Flooded Strand.
Having game plan A, B, and C in a deck so that you can kind of switch it up is super important.
Omnath going to gain 4 here. Fetch land going to get cracked, so Chris will have 4 mana now.
Okay. So we drew the card, gained the life, made the mana.
Yep.
Did the full gamut. And I know what you're thinking. Didn't he just have one of these? How does he have another one in hand? Well, he has drawn
12 cards.
Yeah, he's drawn
12 additional cards. That's not even counting his draw step.
He is
and another Shardless Agent. So that's going to find a Beans.
I'm sorry. Does he have mismatched Shardless Agents? Chris Dieter.
Do what you want, man.
I guess. I saw Zach out.
Okay, look at the deck. We got to see if Jace is actually in here.
Okay, yeah.
One would think it is.
Come on, Jace. Lorien Revealed, Teferi.
Most of these decks are only playing 3 Up the Beanstalks now. I did not see the case. The fourth Up the Beanstalk, I don't know if it's necessary. Also, it makes you much more likely to deck yourself.
But that's the point. In this
deck. I mean, if it was me, I would play 4 Up the Beanstalks, and I don't know how many Chris is playing, but I do know that a lot of these decks are only playing 3 copies of Up the Beanstalk.
I could see that. It's sort of like a dead draw at some points in the game.
No. Best card in the deck.
Not even when you already have 3 in play, you don't think that it's a dead draw?
No.
Oh my God. You're the greediest man alive.
Draw more cards. Draw more cards.
Okay. We have people watching us.
Good.
There's people watching us, like, pounding on the desk.
I know it was for effect.
For effect. Yeah, definitely not actually encouraging. I really do want to see somebody deck out. I want to see Chris deck out with this deck.
No,
and, like, win.
Absolutely not.
Oh no, win with a Jace. Deck out and win with a Jace.
I want to see that.
I want to see that alternate win condition.
Shardless Agent going to get in the red zone here. Pass back over to A.
To remind everybody, this is the deck name that Chris Dieter gave to us, and with no view of the deck list.
Right, so I'm not giving you any information other than this cryptic deck name. It has to be Jace Wielder.
It has to be.
Inkmoth Nexus going to get activated. Another Inkmoth Nexus going to get activated.
This is a clock, dude.
This is 3?
Could be 4. He has a Agatha. He has a Soul Cauldron in play.
No, 3 turns.
Oh, yeah.
And if we activate the Cauldron, it is a 2-turn clock.
Yeah.
Here is what is this card called? I always forget. Dead Gone.
Dead and Gone.
So Dead Gone does it deal 2 damage? I thought it was a non-flying creature.
Hang on. Look it up.
No, maybe it is just shock.
I think it's just shock. The other one is bounce. It's bounce and shock.
Yeah, the 3 mana one is bounce.
Yeah, it's just a target creature.
Okay, and so here is a Solitude going to get evoked. That is also an Ancestral Recall right now.
Ooh, yeah. There is a card from one of the Ravnica sets.
Yeah, Dead Gone.
No, that deals. What is it? It's like Assault and Batter. No, not Assault and Battery.
No, not Dead Gone. Dead Gone is the card he just played, right?
Yeah.
What is the card he just played?
That's Dead and Gone.
Dead Gone. Okay.
The other one is from like Ravnica Allegiance.
I know what it is, and it's a red one also.
It's Gruul mixed on one side and then green and red on the other.
Interesting. Okay, so both of the Inkmoth Nexuses are going to go away.
Yeah. So Chris had to do that.
And here is a Beseiju from A.
Just casting it.
And a Shadow Spear. This is an Urza Saga deck.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think it's... I think 2 colors is the maximum you can do and play Urza Saga.
Well, honestly, the Scales deck is colorless.
Yeah,
it's a colorless deck, much akin to Affinity, where we have these lands that can make colored pips of mana, but also most of our cards just don't need color.
Yeah, we like activated abilities. And, like, obviously, the green you can use for Beseiju, the red you can do for Zebes.
Here is 3 mana for another copy of Shardless Agent. So we got to find out if he has
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so Chris is playing 4 beans.
So the odds of him having actual Jace, Wielder of Mysteries is high now, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't have an exact card count. I believe he has 7 or 8 cards in hand.
The graveyard is now thicker than the
3 exiled
library.
cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Guessing Chris has between 25 and 28 cards left in his deck.
We saw him cascade a decent amount. In the
so
bottom.
if he plays, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, 5 cards, he'll deck himself.
Correct. And yeah, the Jace won't do it, but all he needs to do is evoke. There's a Hangerback Walker. Okay, we got a blocker.
Yeah, I don't know even if that was an option.
Yeah.
If Jace is the win condition right now, he has tons of power in play.
Yeah, those Shardless Agents.
And this is just lethal. So A. Adam's going to scoop him up. These players are going to sideboard, and we will be right back with Game 2.
Love you.
Hunter Card Hero, that's Jeremiah, in the chat says, the teams have jerseys? Yes, they sure do. Both of them have jerseys.
And Blake and I are wearing jerseys.
Everybody, this is a sporting event.
You're not wrong.
All right, so A has brought in some interesting cards. Well, an interesting card.
Okay, go on.
A card that I don't even know what does. I know what it is, but I don't know what it does. So, opted to sideboard out all 4 copies of Ancient Stirrings.
Interesting.
Brought in an additional copy of Haywire Might, 2 copies of Tamio's Safekeeping, and a Sir Ginger.
Oh.
Can you pull up Sir Ginger and tell me what it does?
Yeah, Sir Ginger the Meal Ender?
Yes.
Sir Ginger the Meal Ender. This is one of the new ones from the Wilds of Eldraine. It's a legendary artifact creature food. Food Knight. It's a Food Knight.
Okay.
2 mana for a 3/1. It has Trample, Hexproof, and Haste as long as an opponent controls a Planeswalker.
Which that deck does often.
Okay.
His opponent, I mean.
Okay, I'm about to tell you some information. Whenever another artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, so whenever it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it and scry 1. And it has an activated ability, and that is food.
Oh boy, these players are already getting started here.
Sorry, you gain life equal to its power when
An
you sack it.
Inkmoth Nexus is going to cast as a boss here back on Chris's turn. Just a Triomen pass. So how did Chris sideboard?
Brought out all those Teferis. Brought out
Oh no.
Brought out the Force of Negations.
That makes sense.
Brought in 2 Beseiju and 3 of the Green Forces.
Just going to try to kill the scales,
Yeah.
rather than counter them. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Another copy of Inkmoth Nexus is going to cast a Hangerback Walker on
Blue Force
1.
out, Green Force in.
Yeah.
Which
That makes sense.
Chris is a...
Sir Ginger, though, that card has a ton of text on it. It's a
so
2-mana
much.
3/1 with Hexproof.
Trample, Hexproof, and Haste as long as they control a...
Oh, only if they have a Planeswalker.
Yes, Trample, Hexproof, and Haste as long as they control a Planeswalker. Unfortunately, Chris did board out a plethora of his Planeswalkers.
Oh, wow. Fire Ice going to do some damage here.
Oh my god.
That's a solid 2 for 1.
Yep. That's why they play it. I mean, this format's been hostile to X1s
For a very long time. Agatha Soul Cauldron. It's going to
A has to know
immediately exile
The Ballista or the Walker.
Hangerback Walker.
Okay. That's not a Ballista.
So now all of A's creatures can pay 1 and tap to put a +1/+1 counter
Yes,
on them.
it's really good.
Back on Chris's turn. What's it going to be? It's a Windswept Heath. And we'll just pass back over to A.
Okay, so we're playing the control game. This Thopter, not a huge threat. Other than just being a flying...
Chris's mana base is very painful. So a 2/2 flyer can be very problematic.
Yeah.
Haywire Might.
Knocking Zabaz out. So now all of his +1/+1 counter creatures have Zabaz's 2 activated abilities, the white and the red.
Right, which one of them is destroy target artifact you control.
Yes.
And the other one is what?
Hang on. Zabaz, the Glimmer Wasp. This is a Modern Horizons.
Yeah, I think you mostly play it for the first thing, which is like if a modular ability of a permanent you control would trigger, it triggers an additional time.
I'm looking it up. Okay, he's a bug. He's, of course, an insect. Legendary artifact creature. He has modular 1. And if a modular triggered ability would put a 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature, that many +1 instead.
Okay.
So that's cool.
Okay.
Red, destroy target artifact you control. White, it gains flying until end of turn.
Okay, so we can give a Walking Ballista flying.
Which is rad.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's... I like this play. A sort of off to a much faster start here. And like you said, it is a colorless deck. Mm-hmm. No colored mana in play. Doesn't care. I mean, the Haywire Might, maybe if he wants to activate it, but there's no targets right now. Right now it's just a body that he can slam in with.
Yep.
And a clock is a clock is a clock.
Right. It does not matter. Just get your opponent dead. Chris is just going to play a land and pass. Back over on A's turn. I'm going to draw a card. Is there a third land? There is. It's a Grove of the Burn Willows.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I love this card so much.
Going to tap for 2 here. Nope. Not going to tap for 2.
It does tap for a colorless too.
Well, yeah, without giving your opponent a life gain, I think, yeah.
Untap Punishing Fire, please. Or unban it.
Unban it.
Unban Punishing
100%. Make this format more hostile to X1s. I believe that was a...
That's a Hound. The other modular Hound.
Interesting. Can you pull that one up? I'm not sure what that card is.
It's a modular dog.
Creature's going to get in the red zone. Chris down to 7.
Arcbound Tracker. No, that's not the one. Oh my god.
Yeah, Arcbound Tracker
Mouser? Is that the one? No.
Yes, I believe that is.
It's a white one though. He doesn't have white mana.
Oh, okay, no.
Oh my god. I know it's a modular creature.
All right, I'm gonna hop out and see
okay.
this real quick.
It's a rare. If anybody in chat knows what card this is, he's playing some hot ones. What is it?
That is an Arcbound Ravager.
Oh, it's a Ravager.
It is that's a promo.
Oh, God. I'm glad. I don't feel as stupid for not recognizing.
No, it's a promo version. I don't think I've ever seen that version either. I don't know. I don't even know what promo it is.
I know what a Ravager looks like.
Secret Lair or something.
Yeah.
Yes, Arcbound Ravager. So things not looking good for Chris. He is deep in the tank here, trying to figure out how he's going to get out of this situation.
Yeah, and if you've never sat across from an Arcbound Ravager, good for you. This card is terrifying.
Yes. I actually liked that standard format a lot. I'm not going to lie.
With artifact lands?
A lot of cards got banned, but the problematic cards, in my opinion, were the lands.
It's true.
Yeah.
They nuked those appropriately. So Arcbound Ravager, just a 1/1 for 2, terrible card. Terrible.
Absolutely not.
Why would you play that?
Absolutely not.
It's a 0/0 for 2 that comes in with a +1/+1 counter. Stupid, right? But you can sacrifice an artifact anytime to put a counter on it. And then it has modular.
Yep.
So when it dies, you just
move those counters around.
This is
between Arcbound Ravager and Cranial Plating.
Oh yeah,
being legal in the same standard format. Like games were over on turn 3 always.
Yes. Yeah, we had to do
but the reason that was possible was because they printed you could play 20 untapped 0 mana artifacts and you got to play one of them every turn and they were lands.
You couldn't counter them. Yeah.
That's what?
Oh, so here's Force.
This is a Force of Vigor. It's getting hardcast.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I believe Chris pointed it at the Ravager and the Cauldron.
Correct. And I think those are the right choices. I don't know.
Well, right or wrong, we will find out in just a little bit. Chris is in big danger no matter what.
Yeah, he's at 6 and So this is the ideal opener for A, right? Chris is sort of spending his mana on. You don't want to spend mana on a Force of Vigor.
Maybe he has another one in his hand.
Possible, but like he's not even clearing the board. He's dealing with a
I think that Force of Vigor is one of the most messed up forces.
Oh, 100%.
Why does it destroy 2 artifacts? The whole point of forces is that they 2-for-1 you.
Correct. It
doesn't 2-for-1 you.
No, 2-for-2s. Yeah,
it's an even exchange on cards.
And
so Force of Vigor is going to resolve. Both of those cards going to get destroyed. +1/+1 counter is going to get moved over to Haywire Might, and we'll pass back over to Chris's turn. It's an Omnath.
So this is a great play for him. It's a great blocker.
Yeah, I mean, being able to clear out 2 of your opponent's most powerful cards, and then follow it up with your most powerful card. Chris is doing a great job of turning the corner here. If he has a land to follow this up and gain himself 4 life, we might be back in the driver's seat.
Yeah, he needs to gain that life. If he has a fetch land, he gets to gain the life, make more mana, and then deploy something else. Obviously, no Teferis. Teferi would actually be pretty clutch here.
You said he boarded those out,
He
right?
did board those
Here's
out.
a Misty Rainforest. Chris going to go up to 4. Immediately crack the Misty Rainforest and go down to 7. He's shocking himself. So unfortunate.
Yeah. Man, what is he going to do with 5 mana? Definitely not cast a Solitude.
Like I said, this deck's mana base is very painful. It's just like a roller coaster. You're up and then you're down. But
the life gain on the Omnath though.
Yeah, the life gain is
Fury.
amazing. Okay. Here is a Fury.
So now he's going to be able to clear the board.
Nope, just gonna take out the 4/4 Haywire Might.
But now he has a 2-turn clock, I believe. It's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 3 turns. Sorry, he's gained some life. Because Omnath is a 4/4. And this is a 3/3 double strike. That's 10 damage a turn if A doesn't have a blocker. He has 3
Inkmoth
Nexuses in play. Nexus. Nexus. I'm not sure of the plural of these. I feel like you're lying to me. Are those 1 mana to activate?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow, they really messed up some of these cards.
Inkmoth Nexus is a sweet card. Do you remember the standard deck where you played Primeval Titan, but you went and got Kessig Wolfrun and Inkmoth Nexus?
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
So if you have 13 lands in play, you kill your opponent.
New Phyrexia standard. Dude.
Those standard decks were so fun because they were all predicated on Titans, which all cost 6 mana.
Except for the Frost Titan.
Frost Titan. No, Frost Titan was good.
He was the antithesis.
It's good in the mirror.
Yeah. Hang on, let me board
it's
in
like
my Frost
it's like
Titan.
solitude or subtlety. It's like subtlety is it's like kind of an okay card unless you're playing in a pitch elemental mirror match. Then it's really good.
It's fantastic. There's solitude, and you're like, okay, pitch, put that solitude back on top of your library.
Both of Chris's creatures are going to get in the red zone. Hangerback Walker going to do a little blocking here. We got another Thopter coming.
Chris still at
those
low
Thopter
life
tokens
total.
are sick.
So notably, this is still a 2-turn clock for A. Those all have flying.
Yes, yeah,
And all he
it's
needs
4
is to hold
total.
up a
It's
blocker.
4 total power.
Yeah. So if he slams in here, he has blockers with the
Nexuses.
The Nexuses.
Interesting. An interesting racing situation.
I think I press the gas here if I may. I just go for it.
The only burn that Chris has in his deck is Fire Ice.
Yeah.
So it's not like he could even close the grip with bolts.
Right.
Here is another Hangerback Walker
X2.
for 4. So this is just gonna be lethal. Next turn.
Yeah. Chris has to do something.
And a Fire Ice won't even do it. He needs a Solitude.
Yeah. I think even that's going to be rough.
Yeah, these creatures are for sure going to have to be back on blocking duty next turn. Unfortunate.
Because man, that 2-turn clock evaporated real quick for Chris. It's so funny.
Hangerback Walker, really impressive.
Yeah. These 2 beastly mythics.
I forgot about Leyline Binding. Okay, so he has 8 possible outs. I know he already played 1 copy of Solitude, but okay. So we're back in the race.
It's still not looking great.
Omnath is going to gain life. We are just pushing the gas.
We're just going to taking him to 8.
So Omnath is going to gain 4, and I would imagine he has another card to follow it up with.
Well, he has a land. Okay, okay, so here we go. Okay.
So A's deck can present a lot of damage.
Going to 10?
But it doesn't have...
He gained so much life.
So A's deck can present a lot of damage, but doesn't have a lot of interaction. So if Chris just puts a couple bodies on the board right now...
Yeah.
A might not be able to get rid of him.
How did he gain 8 life off of that?
The Omnath gains only 4 life.
Yeah, he was at 2. How did he go up to 10?
I don't know that he was actually at 2.
Oh, did we present that wrong?
I don't know that he was actually at 2.
So that Arcbound Ravager is a Pro Tour promo.
Yeah, I saw the comment in the chat. Thanks, Jeremiah. Never seen that one before. Back...
Oh, he gained 4 in his opponent's turn. Okay, so he...
Because he cracked a fetch land on his opponent's turn.
Okay,
gotcha.
Okay. Thank you, chat. You're the real ones.
Chat, all right, back on A's turn. A's going to untap and take a draw step. I got to take a look at those Thopter tokens. Those things are sick. Here's 1 mana.
So, oh my god. Honestly, at this point, like...
It is a Shadow Spear. So, Shadow Spear notoriously makes racing situations very awkward.
It's ugly. So now this is going to swing in for 4, gain him 4.
And he's got these Thopter tokens back on blocking duty.
Yeah, so he needs to Solitude here, I think. Are we going to Solitude?
This game has had so much back and forth. Here's a Solitude. I would imagine that's going to get pointed at the Thopter with the counters on it. It sure does. A's going to gain 4 life. That's going to go away.
Are we going to re-equip?
Second main phase, it's going to be another copy of Zabaz.
So glimmery.
Yeah, unfortunately, things will continue to snowball for Chris here now that he has a ton of board presence and a Fire Ice going to take care of both Thopter tokens.
So now if Zabaz dies...
This is lethal.
Yeah.
So Zabaz will have to blocks the Fury.
The counter doesn't go anywhere.
So A going to take 7, go down to 5. Chris going to gain 3.
Chris sure had the comeback story
and
here,
we'll just pass back.
So we still have the Inkmoth Nexuses from A side.
Yeah, unfortunately they don't deal regular combat damage, which is...
I don't think it was doing it anyway. He's at 12.
Faster at this point.
Chris has just drawn so many cards.
Stomping Ground's going to get shocked in here.
Oh. Interesting. I feel like this game has swung wildly.
It has.
Chris
several times.
He knew what he was doing. Chris
very patient.
Already has his invite, right?
Chris has earned his invite already, yes.
Yeah, his whole team.
So top 8 on points at the end of the year also gets a box.
Ooh.
So a lot of these players are trying to get their points threshold up enough that they're in the top 8, and then they each get a box.
Because we have multiple players with multiple invites at this point.
2 Inkmoth going to get activated and block here.
Take 4, go to 1.
Omnath is going to come through.
Does Chris have a Bolt in hand? No, he doesn't play Bolt.
He doesn't play Bolt. The only burn
fire him.
Yeah, the only burn he has in his deck is Fire Ice.
And he's going to gain life off of that, off of the Solitude. Woof. I know we talked about these games not being able to be closed out, but Chris has been able to close these games out with his creature threats, like just hard casting them.
Yeah, mostly that comes up in the mirror match.
Yeah.
The closing the game is rough in the mirror match.
Answers on answers on answers.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is going to do it. Chris is going to take this one down 2-0, but that doesn't mean that his team is lost. This is a team event.
That's what I love.
So it is Pioneer, Modern, Legacy. You can see players on the other side of these ones are still battling it out here. So just because A lost his game does not mean that his team loses this round.
Yeah.
That's it for round number 1. We'll be right back in a little bit with round number 2.
Love you.
Get off my lawn!